Um, Hello, everybody. Hello again to those who caught us on the first lesson on Monday. And welcome to everybody joining us for the first time today. If you didn't catch our last lesson, you can always go back and view it on our page. And, you know, if you are here for the first time, feel free to follow along with this one. You can always review this lesson and the previous one at your leisure. So I think this one will probably dive right into it. I'm Anthony.
I'm Jordan.
And this is Fader's free online lesson number 2.
All right. So on Monday, we talked about tuning our guitar, the different pieces, and we went over some easy chords. And we're going to jump into kind of some more difficult chords here, and we're going to go through some strum patterns and rhythm practice for you guys. So to kick us off, we're going to start here with the D major. Hopefully you guys can see the chart a little bit better this time. We kind of altered that a little bit. So as you can see here, again, we have our nut represented here with a thicker line on our chart. 2 X's meaning we're not playing these strings at the top. An open circle meaning we're going to play this string open through our chord. And then we have 3 fingers on the bottom 3 here. So if I remember my Eddie 8 Dynamite Goodbye Eddie, E, A, D, G. So I'm going to put my first finger on the G string, 2nd fret. And then for the sake of just going 1, 2, 3, we're going to move to the bottom string here. So that'll be our little E. We're going to put our 2nd finger down on that high E on the 2nd fret. And then we're going to reach over with our 3rd finger onto the 3rd fret of the B string there. And we're kind of making a little bit of a triangle shape. And you're just going to play the 4 strings on the bottom. And that's our D major. Now, unfortunately, with D, there is really no cheat way. There's no easy way. So this is the best way to play it. All right. So now we'll try the A minor. So again, we've got our nut represented there. X on the top, so we're not playing that low E. We'll play an open A. We're going to start by putting our 1st finger here on the 1st fret of the B string. Then we're going to move. We'll do the 2nd finger here on the D string on the 2nd fret. And then the 3rd finger is just going to tuck underneath that onto that G string right there on the 2nd fret as well. Playing those 5, we get an A minor. So it has that nice kind of sad, somber sound to it, which you'll find with minor chords. So that's the full version of the A minor. We're going to go over an easy version here too, in case you're still working up towards it. So it's pretty much exactly the same. We're just going to take our 2nd finger from here, and we're just going to move it down to where we had that 3rd finger. So as you can see here, we're 1 on the B on the 1st fret and 2 on the G of the 2nd fret. And we're only going to play 1, 2, 3 strings. All right. So we have our chords, we're playing them, they're sounding good. Where do we want to go next? Well, we want to start strumming through these chords because songs don't just have one chord that rings out through the entire thing, right? So we're going to want to start by breaking this down into quarter note beats. The way that music works is we count everything in beats, typically in groups of 4. So that's what we mean by the quarter note. So the way that you would count this section here is just 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see here that we have 1 kind of bolded. And the reason that is because that first note or that first beat is going to be accented. We're going to kind of use that to keep track and keep our time and make sure that we're keeping everything on the same time. So if I were to just clap this out of the beat, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you can take any one of these chords that we've done so far and just try to play on that beat. So I'm going to use D, for example, and I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just doing downstrokes for now, okay? We're just going down and we're trying to be on that beat. So you might be wondering, how can I keep on this beat? Lots of different options. Your best bet is a metronome. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the metronome, it's just a device that keeps time, and it'll tick or clack or whatever sort of sound you set it to do. And it'll have like a louder beep on your accent note, or your first note in our case, and you can set them to different speeds. So they're on your metronome, there'll be a setting for BPM, or beats per minute. One way to think of that is the ticking of a clock is at 60 beats per minute, right? It's just every second. So you can set that to whatever speed you're comfortable with, and then just practice along like that. All right. So we'll talk about our eighth note beats here now. So eighth notes are just, they take up half the time of a quarter note. So the way this one's gonna go is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, all right? So it's similar to the quarters, but we're adding in those ands, and those are our eighth notes, all right? So we have here the numbers are our downbeat, and the and signs are upbeats. All right. So here we have some more strumming practice. We have some different beats and some different signatures going on. So the first one up top here, that's the quarter notes that we were talking about first there. So it's just going to be any chord you're comfortable with, and looks like we'll do a D. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? Pretty straightforward. That's a great place to start. Now, if you're finding that's going really well, you're doing that with the different chords and comfortable with it, we can try to add in those eighth notes. So there are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're going to do up strums on our and here. So we'll do the D chord again, and Anthony and I will demonstrate that for you. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Great. So you really want to try to think of this stuff always in fours. 4 is the magic number in music, all right? So now down here, we have some more complicated ones. So this one, you can see we have the eighth notes lined up, but these ones are blocked out, and then we have a double at the end there. So we're still counting to ourselves 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but we're gonna miss those 3 upstrokes there. So this one can be a little bit tough to wrap your head around to start, but with some practice, you'll get there undoubtedly. So we'll give this one a demonstration for you. So we get 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, basically, when you're missing those notes on the ands in between for the eighth notes, it's still an up arrow that I have here, and that's because when you hit down on the note you're supposed to hit, you're still going through the motion of going up, but just missing the strings. So here you hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, hit. So you still go up on those ghost notes or whatever you want to call them.
And that just kind of keeps you in the rhythm with the right arm, right? So you're still playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 with the right hand, but we're just taking out some of the sound just to kind of add some flavor and some rhythm to it. So now we have one on the bottom here. It's going to be a similar effect, but now you'll notice we just have an up that's not going to be missed on the third and there, or our eighth note, sorry. All right. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Nice. All right.
Yeah. So basically, you can take this idea of missing certain strums in a group of 4 beats or 8 beats, and by picking certain ones and repeating that pattern, you can create your own strumming patterns if you want.
Absolutely. All right. We'll move on here. So now we're going to talk about switching chords. So the important thing to know is that after time and practice, you will develop muscle memory that's going to make all of this a lot easier. The one thing that will really help you off the start here is to find your anchor notes or pivot points where you can move between chords. So the basic idea of it is looking at chords. So in this case, we're doing A minor to see what are shared and common fingers between the chord. So as we can see on our A minor, we have our first finger on the B of the first fret. We have our second finger on the D of the second, and then our third on the second on the G string. So once that chord is made, we have our A minor, and all we have to do to change to the C is move this finger right here down like that. So in this example, these two are our anchor notes, right? Because they're not going to change as we switch between the chord. So as Anthony's demonstrating, we just have our A minor, anchored, lift, moving to C. All right. So we have a very similar effect, but kind of different here with the A minor to the E. So this one's more of a copy and paste sort of idea. So we have our A minor again set up here. Now to move that to the E major, you're going to take the exact same shape, but you're just going to shift them all up one string. So the shape stays the same, then everything just moves up into the E major. And that little exercise moving from the A minor to the E major is one of those things that's going to help with the muscle memory, right? Because you're keeping the same shape, you're just moving back and forth. All right, so we're going to demonstrate an easier one now with the easy C to A minor. And all this one is we have our first finger down on our B string of the first fret for that C. And to move that to the easy A minor, we're just going to add our second finger on the G there on the second fret. So if I have my C, and then I just push this guy down, I get my A minor. Right.
Cool. That pretty well covers those. So they're good to just sort of sit down and practice going back and forth between that one, back and forth between that. Or if you're working with the easy chords, same thing. Just go back and forth between the two and you'll get really used to it.
So on the bottom here, we have an exercise that we can use to practice switching chords and playing on beat at the same time. So we're going to be moving between three chords here. We have our A minor, C major, and E minor. So you can do the easy versions of these if you prefer, or you can do the full version if you like. So all we're doing, again, is those quarter notes, just down strums. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here's where it'll get a little bit weird, is we're actually going to play the E minor twice as long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we'll give that a try. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 to C. 2, 3, 4 to E. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3.
Etc.
It repeats itself, yeah.
You basically just practice it by repeating it over and over again. So yeah, really, basically what you're doing is at the start of each measure, which is a group of 4, you're holding a chord, and right at the very end, between the 4th beat and the 1st beat of the next one, that's where you're making your switch. And the idea is to keep your beats very consistent, very even all the time, and then try to, in that last space, make the change so that you're playing the next chord right on the 1st beat of the next measure. So that's the idea with it. So good tip is if you're having a lot of trouble switching between those chords fast enough, try slowing the beat down and finding a spot where you feel comfortable playing it. And if you don't feel comfortable playing it, just try going between those chords. And another cool thing about this too is all the chords that we've practiced, the ones in the first lesson and this one, you can put any chords in there. You can even have a chord change in the middle of a measure, and you can take those strumming examples or any ones that you want to make up yourself by missing certain strums, and you can change the strumming pattern. So you could do the same thing, this one with that second strumming pattern example we did. So it'd be
Just move the camera to Anthony's hand. There we go.
sort of more like, So when you start adding in different strumming patterns and playing those chords over and over, it basically just ends up sounding like a song. So you can make your own songs with it. You can try putting chords in from different songs. You don't necessarily have to strum exactly the same as another song to sort of sound like it or sing along with it while you play. So you can really have fun with this exercise.
And as far as keeping the beat goes, if you don't have access to a metronome, the easiest way is just tap your foot, all right? And you just want to make sure you're keeping that even distance the best that you can. It's one of those things. Practice, you'll get better at it too. That's one way that we're kind of involving the whole body in playing the instrument, and that kind of helps with our overall rhythm when it comes to any sort of music. So even if you want to be singing while you're playing guitar or anything like that, that whole body involvement really makes a difference.
We do have a question. Can I interrupt with a question?
Certainly.
No, definitely.
I'm going to try to talk a little louder so that people can hear me. That was mentioned last time. Dan has asked, when you aren't using finger 4, thinking the pinky, what do you do with it? Does it curl up, or do you stick it up, or do you dangle it, or what do you do with that pinky finger when you're not using it?
I mean, as far as intent goes, I guess you'd want to sort of keep it clear of the fretboard surface. So you want to make sure that it's not getting in the way, muting strings or anything like that. As far as a passive sort of explanation, I guess mine sort of stays somewhat curled and like almost ready to like pounce on a fret when it is needed.
Ready for action.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Like a
It's
cat
just sort
ready
of,
to pounce on a...
sort of stays ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Now that reminds me of another question we had last time. I don't remember who asked it. But they were wondering how to properly hold a guitar pick.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
sure.
Great
So
question.
that is something that
It's a little bit subjective.
Absolutely.
But there are some tips out there. If you struggle, you can always ask somebody else how they hold theirs. What I do with my pick is I try to hold it between the inside, the back of my thumb, and the side of my index finger. That's for starters. Let's see if maybe I can get a little bit closer without getting too close. So is this pretty close?
yeah, that looks good.
Cool. So I take the pick sort of in the side of my index and the back of my thumb. For me, I like not too much of the pick to hold, to poke out at the bottom. So there's actually a little bit of material coming out the top. Now, the reason why I like to hold the pick this way is when you hold a lot of it out and you're hitting the strings, a lot of the pick hits the string, and it kind of makes it a little more difficult for the string to pass through the pick or the pick to pass through the string. So it can make it feel a little bit harder to strum. So when you hold more of it, less of the material goes over, and it just sort of lightly grazes across the strings. So that's sort of my way of doing it and how I usually show people, but you can hold it however you like.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's really whatever feels comfortable is going to give you the best sound. For what it's worth, I'll show you guys the way I do it as well. So I'll just get an angle here. So I hold my hand kind of like this. I place the pick on top, and then I sandwich it in with my thumb like that. So I have a little bit more hanging off than what Anthony probably would, but you can kind of choke up and loosen as you need. And then one important thing that I found when you're learning to strum is you kind of want to pretend you're shaking water off your hands. And that action in the wrist is nice for getting that clear sound out of the strings. So that was one of the best tips I was given when I first started learning.
Is that how you guys hold your picks all the time?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah.
All the time.
Because I hold my pick totally different.
See, yeah.
Well,
so
that's why we teach. No,
Yeah.
I'm
I
kidding.
should have taken some lessons, I guess. That's why I'm behind the camera, I guess. No, I hold it like nobody can see this, but I hold it like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Totally different. I'm not going to show you folks on camera because I'm probably doing it wrong.
You pick like Marty Friedman?
Oh, yeah, except faster.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Another really good question. A really good question. This one was asked last time and I forgot to get it out there. But how close to the frets do you want to hold your fingers? You know, like I know that people ask, somebody said, do you put it right on the fret, in the middle of the frets, whereabouts do you put that? So that would be a good, it's a question that comes up a lot, and it's just something that should be touched upon. So
Definitely. So you have a fret space to work with, right? Between your metal frets, your fret space, there's a little bit of leeway. You don't want to press right directly on the metal fret. The idea is to push it just before the fret so that it shortens the distance of the string between that metal fret and the bridge of the guitar. So when you're getting your fingers in there, say for like A minor, that's one that a lot of people find it's kind of tricky to get your fingers, especially if you got like sort of thicker fingers like myself, to get them into that space. It's kind of tricky, so you sort of have to work around, and you want to the idea would be to try and keep your fingers as close to the middle of that space as possible, while realizing that ultimately sometimes they have to be off to the side.
You guys have more material? Like, should I ask another question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is basically, this is the whole material for the lesson.
Okay.
So just as a recap for that, all we did was we introduced a couple new chords, D major and A minor, just in case anybody missed it at the start. Then we talked about the beats, being able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also we covered strumming with down strums and up strums, how to change chords, a couple of different things to look for, like anchoring, like notes that don't move from one chord to another, and also sort of copy and pasting or cut and pasting a shape that you can move. So you just sort of hold the shape and move it down. And then an easy version of that. And then we had a little strumming exercise, all of which is detailed in our PDF, which is available now. You can find it in the comments section in a link, and we'll be sharing that lots. So it'll be on our page and everywhere.
It's on our website as well.
Yeah.
Just keep clicking lessons until you find it. So.
Yeah. Faders.ca.
Yeah. Did you guys learn how to play Rock and Robin?
No, I didn't.
I expected Jordan to learn it. I expected him to learn it.
Okay, for lesson 3, that's the.
Gotta play
Okay,
rock and
Gotta play
roll.
Rock and Robin.
All right.
Okay, right on.
I solemnly swear we will look up this song and work on learning it so that we can play it in lesson 3.
Okay. Somebody's wondering what the difference is between the top 2 chords. Now I can see what the question is, because it's actually in black. They're drawn. It's the same chord, A minor, and
Yeah.
you're switching to C to E. So just give them a
Yeah.
quick explanation
Sure.
of that if you can.
Sure, yeah. So this here chord, it's A minor to begin with in the black notes there. And then this chord here is A minor in the black notes as well. So using the pink highlighter that I found to distinguish the other chord on the chart, basically the A minor is the bass chord for this. So that's the same chord in both of those. What's different is the changed chord. So in the first case, when you're playing that A minor, what you're doing is you're taking your third finger off of the second fret of the G string, and you're keeping your other ones in the same place and just moving that third finger over down to the third fret of the A string. So that's that first one. So you're still basing out of the A minor. So then in the next one, what you're doing is you're taking that A minor shape, that exact same shape, and keeping your fingers together, just moving them up a set of strings to your heavier strings. And then by doing that, you're now playing E. So another cool way that you can practice chord changes out of this actually is going from A minor to C, go back to A minor, go over to E major, then go back to A minor, and then repeat. Go to C, then go to A minor, and then back to E. And I'll repeat that once more. So you can practice this going A minor to C to A minor to E and back to A minor. So A minor to C, then back to A minor, and then to E, and then back to A minor. And you can just repeat that over and over. So you're using an anchor note back and forth and a sort of copy paste back and forth to go between those. And that's sort of an easier way of looking at chord changes. You can see what's similar between different chords and what's different, and that'll help you to move, going back and forth between just a couple of chords that are easier to change.
So you don't have to lift all your fingers every time. You can sort of cheat a little bit. Makes it easier, right?
Exactly right.
I think with a lot of people that are beginning, it's the getting, moving all their fingers back and forth is the tricky part. Whereas if you can sort of keep some of them in their same location, you can just move a couple around, and it just makes it a little bit. It's like cheating, but in a good way, right?
Yeah, good kind of cheating.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can use that as a catalyst for once you start practicing these little ones, it can become a catalyst for making bigger changes. So you can make a bolder change from like a G chord to a D chord, which is like a much bigger, crazier change.
We did. I think maybe somebody asked this last time as well, but it's a good question to ask. Is how do you fix the position of your hand if it stops the high E from making any sound? So I'm wondering if it's, I guess it's not ringing out, it's muffling it or whatever.
I could use I could say C for an example. So in the C chord, you might find that your fingers are sort of laying a little too flat. So I'm trying to hold this sideways to show you kind of flat fingers. What you need to do is use as much of the very tip of your fingers as possible, and you're trying to roll. You can even sort of jut your wrist out a little bit to help roll your fingers, and try and imagine like you're trying to hold another guitar neck in front of this one, right? Like there's a space here. So the more you curl your fingers over and roll them almost forward, the more space that you'll have in the bottom. So when you're trying to move your hand around while keeping your fingers in place, you can play the notes individually. I think Jordan mentioned that in the last lesson too, is when you're playing a C. So there's your stuck note. You need to try to move your finger around a little bit until you hear that note ring out, and then try playing them all again.
So just sort of slow down the process and try to get it clean and clear. Right?
Yeah, basically it's the idea with anything on the guitar is when you're having trouble with something, break it down into smaller chunks and just try to pinpoint where your mistake is. So in that case, you're playing all the notes individually, finding where your weak notes are and trying to adjust your hand. Just sort of by moving your wrist around and trying to curl your fingers more, you can find where they'll all ring out better.
So I'm not quite I understand this one. Hayden has asked, he goes, I only know that E, A, and D, and G are way harder than those. I'm assuming those was there. What frets are those other notes in? So maybe, do you guys just want to show quickly some of the more, like some other common chords, I guess, like E, A, D. Did we do D this time?
We did do D today at the start, but I can sort of, we can go over those for sure.
Just a quick, so that people can maybe see how the hand really doesn't have to move that far to hit all these other chords, maybe?
Sure, yeah. So you have like an E chord, E major. So then to move to an A, right, and then to a D, and then to a G, and then you can move back to an E, right? That's sort of the idea. So to move from there, like you see some of these changes, they're not crazy, but actually going from the A to the D, I have a little trick. Basically what I do is I take my second finger off, my third finger slides to the third fret from the second, and then my second finger plots down. So it's finding, again, another little mechanism to change between those two chords. And when I play the G, I actually place my pinky down right before I make the switch. So my pinky is kind of like a pivot point for me to get my other two fingers in place. So you can always find little things like that. And like you'll notice more of these over the years playing guitar. Like I never really broke this down and thought about it, but that's what I'm doing. And it'll make you better and better the more you sort of break those down and find those changes that you're doing.
And once you get like a half dozen of these common chords down, you can play just virtually any song in a simplified version or whatever. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then it's a matter of just being able to switch fluidly back and forth between them. And that's, and then once you get that under your belt, I think you can really take it even further, right? It's just getting that over that first tricky part. So
definitely, yeah.
Cool. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah. Actually, yeah. We have one of Mitch's students on here, Mitch Mosden, I believe. He said if you stick it, actually, Mitch, I saw him teach that. He gets people. I'm not sure how he did it. Get people to stick a pencil kind of in their fingers here, and it keeps their hand back from the back of the neck. It's kind of like a prop, basically, to do that. So I should get Mitch to take a picture of his hand, how he did that or whatever. I thought that was a pretty clever idea. So that's a
definitely.
Thank you, Ian, for that comment.
It's an interesting way of doing it.
Just sort of forces you to do it, right?
See, I always just forced my students. You better do it.
Or else. Cool. Yeah, I think we got most of the questions answered and stuff. So cool. I think what do you guys think?
I have one final point that I forgot to mention earlier. If you find that your strumming is really strong and you're maybe struggling with the chord progressions, one thing that I like to do is just strum through the change. So, for example, because the chords that we're playing are quite open, a lot of the open strings are going to fit within the key of whatever you might be playing. So just using the A minor to C example, if I'm... So I kind of am just playing open strings in there, but it still works as far as musically because they're all tuned to a certain way to make it sound so that they'll work. So
yeah, it's a little bit forgiving. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's almost more of a musical, less. I don't know. It gives it more of a flow, even in a way, right? So cool.
Definitely, yeah.
Good comment. Good point. Okay. Yeah, there's asking about that pencil trick. So why don't let's just quickly let's grab a pencil. Let's see if we can figure this out on our own here.
All right. See how many other guitar
So if I made
teachers.
a C.
I think you just jam the pencil in there somewhere, and it holds through the back.
Through the back.
Through there.
To the pinky?
Like so?
No. Here, I'll do it. I think it was something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
And then it sort of the pencil kind of keeps your hand
from collapsing in.
Yeah. I should probably there's something like that. So I'll get Mitch to. I'll see exactly how he was holding it, but it was something along those lines. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe try going in from this side.
This side?
No, from behind the neck, but from the north to the east. Yeah. Nope. Okay. There's a way that works, but anyway.
We don't know. Science hasn't figured that one out yet.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Just you want to I put a comment in there. Just remind everybody we're giving away a guitar.
Yes, exactly. So we announced in lesson 1, and we'll just let you guys know once more that we are going to be giving away one of these Fender CD60 acoustic guitars along with a hard case. And all you got to do is keep tuning in. We're going to give more information in a future lesson on how you can win that, and we will have more giveaway announcements as well coming to you guys very soon.
Right on. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, I guess thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and we hope to see you guys in the next one, which probably will be continuing this in the same sort of schedule, Monday, Thursday. So yeah, we'll announce officially next Monday's lesson. So keep watching our Facebook page, Instagram, and you'll see when the next one's coming. And we'll have downloads for you guys. You guys can download the PDF and everything. So we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.